At the last company I worked at, a company I worked at for 7 years, was a company called Taylor Forge on the west side of Chicago. Taylor, Mr. Taylor, who was founded the company, was an inventor, was an engineer, and invented a lot of the equipment that we had in the company. He had a decent relationship with the workforce. Generally it was a very healthy company. As he retired, he sold it to Gulf and Western. And Gulf and Western was a conglomerate which I think was really at the cutting edge of business strategies in the late 70s that came to be widely understood as dominant business strategies in our economy in the financial crisis of 2008. So Gulf and Western itself started out as a bumper company in Texas, made bumpers. They borrowed a lot of money. They started purchasing manufacturing companies, and their business plan was milking the cash cow. Their vision was grabbing an undervalued asset, draining of as much cash as they could, and to move that into other assets. So they, I think, bought 13 manufacturing companies, closed every one, including the company I work for. That was the beginning of the wave of plant closings in Chicago and around the country. This is 1982, 1983. I worked next to Cicero, Illinois. Cicero lost 50% of its jobs in 6 years. Chicago in the 1980s lost 3,000 out of 7,000 factories. And the debate started then that still it goes on today. Is manufacturing dead?
When I was working on Wall Street, the leveraged buyout phenomenon really started when I was right out of the training program. I remember I actually worked as an analyst on a leveraged buyout, the first leveraged buyout that Morgan financed. It was seen as nothing but a positive. There were all these often manufacturing industry companies in the United States. They were seen as being somewhat sleepy and undermanaged, and assets underutilized, and efficiencies not exploited. And through the use of sort of the focus of adding debt to their balance sheet, often bringing in new management teams, a lot of these inefficiencies could be wrung out, and it was this beautiful thing. It made the businesses more competitive in the global economy, and it made it enabled extremely attractive financial returns for investors. There were seeds of truth in all of that thinking, but 25 years later, that phenomenon has essentially contributed to the decline of the manufacturing sector in the United States.
Yeah, my father was a meat packer. Back then they didn't have a union that he could just jump into as a Latino immigrant from Mexico. So he had to figure out his way into the labor movement even. And this whole group of workers had to do that. I think what's happening now is you get a lot of companies that are under attack industry-wide. And I think what labor's role in that is going to be moving into the future is one of partnership with them to tell them here is a collective way out of this. And we are not just somebody who sits across the table from you, but we're a strategic partner. And we have ideas about how to get this done and how to help maintain jobs and how to help grow your business and how to help maybe preserve an industry even like we do here in Chicago.
There's no simple solution to solving the problems of the environment, and it's not as simple as a protest or picket signs in front of XYZ corporation. What really has to happen is sort of a development approach in terms of thinking about how can we use the tools of manufacturing and industry and the economy, instead of using them as tools for, short-term profit that benefits, whatever business owner. These tools of industry can be used to solve some of the most important technical problems of our time.
And the high road to us, it's not that complicated. It's sort of, everybody knows what it means intuitively. It means sort of the old-fashioned way of doing business, having a sense of stewardship, having a long-term view, because manufacturing requires a long-term perspective. It's not something that you can flip in a quarter or a year or something like that.
Our version of high road is somebody who has a view towards their workers and towards their community to say, we're going to try to be an anchor in our community and a stabilizing factor in our community while providing good employment for workers where they can make a middle-class wage and have the ability to have access to health care and pension.
Manufacturing doesn't have to be the dirty, evil, dangerous place. It could be part of solving the manufacturing problem, is thinking about how to use our expertise to do what we're doing in a way that is rejuvenating, right? Or that does give back actually to what we've taken from our environment or the world around us.
We actually could have started a school and had a much easier time probably in the suburbs, but our commitment to manufacturing is also a commitment to empowering and to working to develop communities that were devastated by deindustrialization. So even though Austin presented a lot of challenges and it was probably the hardest place to go to start a new school, that's where we chose to go out of principle.
I didn't know I would be able to work CNC mill, but now I know how to work one, change the tools, measure the parts, and make sure everything's correct.
We are the first SIM program in Chicago, Computer Integrated Manufacturing, and these students are the luckiest SIM students in the country because they've all had a year of machine shop beforehand, which is not typical in the Project Lead the Way curriculum.
Right now, if you were to do a job search and you look CNC setup, you'll find that a lot of companies are paying very well, starting at $18 an hour, usually $25, $27 an hour, just to have the ability to set the machines up.
While I'm very interested in the mission of the school and the fact that you are trying to take kids from very impoverished backgrounds and give them a skill set that can translate into success in today's economy, there was also a strong element of self-interest in it. We made the commitment to stay in the heart of Chicago, and in order to make that work, we need people to work in our factory. We need people who come in with the work ethic and the skill sets and the knowledge base to program a CNC machine, run an automated powder coating system, read work instructions, do all the things that go on here all day long.
We have like a machine shop where we're like one part of the class. You're actually sitting down learning and doing book work, and the teacher's showing you like board work, and you get to learn it that way, and then you can go into the machine shop and actually get like hands-on.
Our school is based off a school in Spain, in Mondragon, where they have this company that is owned by the workers, and it was so successful, which is one of the reasons why I believe my school made the school like it is today.
We start off by mass producing these whistles that we're very proud of. And so the students, they understand that it's an art to make many. and for them all to be uniform. So, you know, they understand, you know, it starts as raw material and it goes through certain processes and they all work together. Many students comment when we're doing this on how it sounds like a real company in here, you know.
Instead of trying to force our kids into one track or another and sorting them out way early, let's give them exposure to both of those sorts of extremes, whereas most places you either get one or the other. Let's let our kids really be poly, you know, in their technical education and have this broad kind of complicated, you know, that's pulling at different kinds of parts of their brain.
I plan to work for one of our partners, work full-time and go to school part-time. Plan to study engineering, but after, you know, working full-time and studying engineering, probably get an associate's degree. After that, go on to graduate school, and I want to go to law school.
I really would love to inspire them to see themselves as not only leaders in their community, but also contributing to its development. And so what we've started in the last 4 or 5 months is working with a group of students to actually start a sort of a student-owned manufacturing cooperative here. You know, here we have this state-of-the-art facility in their school, and now we have students who have these great skills to actually to use these machines to their maximum productivity. And so now we're in the process of thinking up, hey, what could we do? What kind of a business plan could we come up with that uses their skills and their talents, not only as manufacturers, but also as entrepreneurs and leaders?
I think the issue of advanced manufacturing in our society is the most important public policy issue of any issue of this decade, because in that issue lies our ability to actually solve the corresponding social problems, whether it's education, whether it's the economy, whether it's poverty, whether it's the environment. It's the central issue.
There's this phrase that we use which is called Entropic Thrift, and the idea is that a material-intensive economy accelerates the natural entropy that occurs on the earth as we use raw materials, process them into products, and then they end up in waste, both in terms of the energy burned to create the products and then the products themselves ending up in a waste heap somewhere. And so part of the challenge of the new economy is to minimize that increase in natural entropy. And so again, this idea of entropic thrift, and the Chicago manufacturing renaissance, I hope, will be at the leading edge of shifting our manufacturing sector to one that is very thrifty in the use of materials. And knowing how to do that well is a value-added process that should generate you know, good jobs and good income and real wealth for the businesses that are in that transition.